Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought I'd pop by and create a card with my new release. All and Create are celebrating their 7th birthday and the celebrations begin on Monday the 16th of October. The preview show is at midday on Create and Craft, and the preview show is where you can see absolutely every product that's available. And all the products available from the whole team. So if you go to createandcraft.com and you go to the TV guide, if I go to Monday, the 16th of October, which is not what I wanted to do, but if you go to Monday, the 16th of October, and if you go to 12 o'clock, you'll see All and Create birthday preview show, and then you can click in this show, and my products and everybody else's products are launched on that show and they're available from then on. Then I've got shows dedicated to myself and my release that begin on Wednesday the 18th of October. So if you purchase the products on the Monday, then you can just sit back and tune into the shows on Wednesday and watch the demonstrations. So if you go to 12 o'clock on the 18th of October, you'll see the products there. I'm on at 12, and then I'm on at 5, and then I'm on at 7. And if you go to the show and you go in this show, you'll see that the products are available across the bottom. So you can see there's some smaller bundles, there's my washi tape, there's some ephemera, there's the complete bundle, there's individuals. There are also gifts with purchase. So I believe there's a stamp set available with purchase, and I've also created a workshop for you as well. I'll just have a quick glance through the stamps. So these are the stamps that are available. There are 4A6 stamps and 3A7. Now I've done a video previously going through these in detail, so I won't go through them in detail again, but we've got Leafle, which has got the leaves, the sentiments, a little floral, and the leaf text here. And if you look at my previous video, that'll show you all the samples as well. We've then got Pointy Leaves, which is the Acer, which works beautifully with the background as well. They all work beautifully with this background. So all these are available in my bundle, and this is the Scarecrow, which has got some fabulous sentiments on there as well. Celebrate the colours of the season, spend time amongst the trees, Scarecrow, meadow. There's some little birds on there as well. Excuse me. Some little birds on there as well. So there's 4A6, which I can't put back, and 3A7. So let's have a look at the A7. Now the A7, we've got this one, which is turnover. We've also got the Acer leaf, so those all go together. And then this one, at the time of recording the video, is the free gift. So that's 1010. So you can see those. So those are the release of stamps that I've got for October. But then I've also got some ephemera. I've put my ephemera into a little wallet because I can't be doing with getting them out of the plastic. So this one is I've called Census, and it's got the sentiments in black and white, and these are fantastic whether you want to create a background with them or whether you just want to pick one out nice and quickly and just add it to a very simple card or your layered cards, and it works beautifully. And I love that they're black and white because I often need black and white. But then I've also got a coloured version as well, which is called Les Sentiments, because I had to do with something in French, didn't I, just for abs. So those are the ephemera. You've got things like memories, good luck, bird, journey, hugs, just for you, happy anniversary, one of a kind, beauty, flowers, birthday, new home, winter, autumn, spring, summer, vintage, peace, high. You've also got, let me just tip these out for you. We won't tip them all out because it's just been mad. You've got ones that are sort of longer like this, and then you've got circular ones like this as well. So you can take your pick. You've also got some hearts that coordinate with my heart stamp set, with the 3 heart set. Have I got that one here, that stamp set? Why have you never got the stamp set, Tracy, that you want? So the hearts coordinate with this stamp set as well. So there's some hearts in there that you can use on your projects as well. So absolutely, there's flowers in there. There's loads of sentiments: inspire, nature, cherish. There's just dream. There's loads. And then there's some like sort of embellishment pieces with little hearts on. There's create, love. Just so much. With the seasons are in there. So these are just a good all-rounder, so that you can use them with all the stamps, or even if you just want to use them on their own. So I've got the black and white version, and I've got the coloured version as well. Just love those. So that's the ephemera. I'm actually going to place this back in here because I literally spent, it's hilarious, I got the ephemera, put it in this little wallet, and I've just spent 20 minutes trying to find them because I put them away in a safe place. Then I couldn't find them when I wanted to do the video. Typical. Also, I've got some beautiful washies on the show. This one's called Ditsy Daisies, and this one goes with an A7 stamp set that I've got out that's got daisies on, and also is a good all-rounder. It's got sort of, now it used to be 37.2 centimetres in length before the pattern repeated, but now we've got a new supplier. It's up to 40 centimetres in length, and there are 10 metres on a roll, and it's just, this is now more papery, so it tears beautifully. That is the aster. Can you see the aster on there? So it'll coordinate with your asters as well, and just works beautifully. But it just is a fantastic. And what I find with the washi tapes, if you look at the washi tapes, they can inspire a project, because you can look at the colours and either find colours that go with them or use similar colours that are in the washi. So it inspires you with a project. So this is Ditsy Daisies #80. Now I had to bring a washi out to go with my rose stamp. I just had to, because not just for the rose, it could go with some anniversary wedding cards. It could go with my heart stencil. I've got a lovely heart stencil it'd go with, just so you can see this. Just gorgeous. It just looks beautiful. Or even if you just wanted to place those kisses, or well, X's on there, you could just place that on there as well. So let's just place this along there. And it just looks beautiful. You've got the hearts on there as well. Some text on there. It's just wonderful. You know, and if you were doing a black and white card with a pop of colour, you could do a pop of red or a pop of orange just to go with your washi. So that would spark off another idea. But because I liked this so much, the rose one as well, I did one in black and white. Sorry, I didn't tell you what that was called. That is called, what is that called? Oh, do you know, it makes my eyes go funny when I have to really concentrate on seeing the, I actually stick my labels sort of in here so I can see them. Glue Romantic, it's called, 79. So that's that one. But because I liked it so much, I've done a black and white one as well, which I also love, because I just think that is very classy, very classy. So it'd work wonderful for anniversaries, Valentine's, Christmas, all year round, but it works beautifully with my rose stamp, which I'm just going to get out. Let's grab the rose stamp. So if you look at the rose stamp, it works beautifully with that stamp set 831. So it works gorgeous with that stamp set. There's always so many things to go through because it takes a while just so that you can understand where my inspiration is coming from. So this is this has been called Balmy Army tape because Abs always refers to my followers as the Balmy Army. So this is called Balmy Army tape. So there you go. And then to go with all the leaves that are being released for the October release, the stamps, I've also got this one. Can you see in all those beautiful colours? Got those leaves on there. New beginnings, colours of the season, maples. Look, I just love that. Just so you can see that. It's just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And it's one of those tapes that will go with most of anything, because if you think about the garden, if you're out in the garden, you'll notice that green goes with most of everything because you've got green in the grass, green in the stems and green in the leaves. So this one is 81 and it's called New Beginnings. So there we go. So those are my washi tapes that are all being released at the same time as the stamps and the ephemera. So what I thought I'd do is I'd create a very simple card. So I've got a piece of Pink Frog smooth card, which is 4.5 by 6.5. I've then got a black mat that is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And I've then cut a piece of Pink Frog smooth card to create my card blank 5.5 by 7.5. So we'll just bring this in. So let's just move these washes out of the way. So I've got some colours here. Now, I've not prepped anything. I've not decided what I'm doing or anything. But hey-ho, that's all part of it. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do direct to paper. So I've got Twisted Citron. And I'm just holding it so that I can get the edge of the ink pad. Don't think about it too much, just the edge of the ink pad. So that's Twisted Citron. I'm then going to use Bundled Sage. So this is laying down the ink quite intensely because you've got that rich pigment from the ink pad that you're laying down direct to paper. So that's Bundled Sage. I'm then going to use Mowed Lawn and tilt your ink pad up a little bit. I can just add the Mowed Lawn. So I've just tilted that a little bit. And then I'm going to use Evergreen Bough, which I don't think I ever pronounced right, but there you go. But a lovely colour. And then I'm going to use Peacock Feathers. Just a lovely colour. And it doesn't matter, you're creating a random background. Don't worry about little bits that go down. So I'm going to turn it round now. And I'm going to go back to the Twisted Citron and just add a little bit more of the Twisted Citron up here. So I'm doing the direct to paper. So just take your time to add the direct to paper. I'm then going to go to the Bundled Sage. Try and remember which order you did your colours in. And I'm just going to add a little bit more of the Bundled Sage. And you can see I've turned the card around just so that I can get to it easily. I'm then going to use the Mowed Lawn. Just add a little bit more. That's quite an intense colour. But we are going to spritz those as well. So then I've got Evergreen Bough. Just bringing it into the colour above. And then I've got the Peacock Feathers. So let's bring the peacock feathers again. There we go. So then I've got my colours laid down. So I'm then going to spritz with water. And I'm going to let just the colours just roll and drip into each other, which you can't see, which is really helpful. There you go. So I'm just going to let the colours just sort of drip into each other. I'm not letting it drip off the card, I'm just letting them drip into each other. And I quite like that. I just like that as it is. So I'm just going to let that do its thing. And what I can do is just press this lighter and just add some bigger blobs of water, just so that that reacts and gives me some oxidization. If you can't do that with your water spritzer, just spritz it into your hand and then flick that onto the card. So I'm just going to let that do its thing. I'm just going to place an ink pad at the top and at the bottom, just so too much doesn't roll off the side and I don't lose all that intensity of colour, because it's just beautiful. And what you can do is you can see that these colours will go beautifully with the washi tape, so I can instantly use some of that washi tape, so that inspires me further. Now, I haven't prepped any of this, so I don't even know which stamp I'm going to use. So I may use the Leafle one. I may use that one. You see, they all go so beautifully and work so well. So we'll grab those two. And I always find that if I'm struggling for inspiration, what I do is I look at a product or I look at something that inspires me. So in this case, the washi tape has inspired those colours. So then I go from there. Right, so let's grab another piece of white card. So a little scrap of white card. And you can see I've not dried my Distress Oxide ink. I'm allowing that just to do its thing and just dry a little bit on its own. I can dry it a little bit later when we get to the stage where I need to add things to the card. However, what I do need to do is just wipe this non-stick craft sheet because it's so wet. So I've got a spare piece of card, and let's take this stamp. So this is Leafle, and it's stamp set 1004. And it's got some beautiful stamps on here. So just take my border acrylic block. And I'm not going to add this to an A7 stamp just because I want to have the leverage on my stamp, so I can just lever it if I need to. So I'm using my border acrylic blocks. So I'm now going to need to move these off because I need these colours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to then ink that leaf. So I'll take a little bit of Twisted Citron. I'll then take, what shall I then take? We'll then take some Mowed Lawn. Don't sort of think about it too much, because then you make it so that it's too regimented. We'll use some Evergreen Bough. And then I'm going to use some Peacock Feathers. That just adds a nice touch of blue. Now, I don't think I'm going to spritz with water. I'm just going to stamp it as it is because I don't want it to be sort of a water effect. So let's just stamp. Now, I've not inked the whole stamp. I've just inked the leaf randomly. And I'm just allowing that ink just to absorb into there. But just look at the colours. Isn't it beautiful? And if you wish, you can check just with one spritz of water just to see if there's anything left on there on your stamp. You never know, there might be, and you might be surprised with what you get. If you don't get anything, which I may not because there's not much ink left on there, it doesn't matter. but we won't know until we try. But as you can see, you've got a second generation print, which is beautiful, and we will use that. You could even get a third generation print, but that would be very pale. So what I'm going to do is just give that a wipe. Now I'm only giving it a wipe because when you've used Distress Oxides, if you then go to use your VersaFine Clair, it will affect the VersaFine Clair slightly. So you don't really want to leave those oxides on there. Plus, I've only dabbed the kitchen oil because I don't want to leave any fibres on there. Now, as I said, I haven't done any prep. So because I haven't done any prep, that means I haven't done any cutting out. But never mind, we can spend some time together and I can do the cutting out. So I'm going to cut out the leaf. And I'm just leaving a little bit of a tiny touch of white just on those leaves, just so that we can get a little pop. Let me just cut that little bit. Just so we get a little pop of that white against our background. Now, when you've got plenty of time, obviously when you demo and you haven't got plenty of time, unless obviously you prep and then you make sure that background is dry and then you've got a dry one to go to. But I didn't do any prep. I literally came upstairs and thought, oh yes, I fancy doing a video. So sometimes I just go with it. If I just fancy doing a video, I then don't necessarily do any prep. I just come along and do the video and I just enjoy the process. So it's, for me, my videos are not about editing everything and making it perfection. That's really not who I am. I just like to, if I just feel like creating, I'll come along and create. And if I think, oh, I may as well create so that you can see what I'm creating, then I just come along and do that. So I don't go for, you know, my videos are not polished and they don't have, you know, front covers and polished headers, and that's just not me. I'm very natural. I'm very, you know, what you see is what you get. So I just go with the flow. And the idea for me, creating is about enjoying myself. For me, I would rather spend more time with you creating a project than editing a video for 4 hours. I think my time is better spent in giving you ideas than editing a video for 4 hours. That's just my personal opinion. I admire all those lovely, talented, professional people who can do everything so professionally, but I'm very natural. So there's our first leaf. And then I've got the one that is a second generation leaf. So we'll use that second generation leaf. There we go. And it doesn't matter on the second generation leaf that the detail, you know, isn't as clear because it's there for as a second generation. But if you imagine if you did the second generation each time on a background, it would work really well because you could keep inking, take off the first generation onto a piece of scrap card, and then just ink your second generation on the background, which would also give you a lovely background. So just cut this out. And that sort of little pop of white just against the background just means that it pops against the background because you've got the white card in there as well. So that's quite nice. So at the time of recording this video, all the details were correct. Sometimes when TV programs happen, some things are, you know, can be subject to change. So, you know, something might change. They might change the order of things. So things can be subject to change when they're on the TV. But at the time of recording the video, all the details were correct. Because obviously I have to record the video a little bit beforehand so that everything's ready for you, so that you can see it as the products are released. Do you like how I share these little snippets with you? Because I'm sure you really needed to know that. There we go. So I've now got, let's move all these bits of scraps of card out the way. I've even flicked one onto my background. So I've got a beautiful set of leaves now that I can create with, and you can see I've got a beautiful background. If you've not got enough of a reaction and you want a little bit more, you can still, after the event, you can still flick water on afterwards. I like to just explain every detail. Now, obviously, I will have to dry some of that. You can let it dry naturally, because then these areas here where it's quite dark, they will dry dark. If I dry them with a heat tool, sometimes I move that ink and it doesn't stay there. It'll move into different areas. Sometimes that's fine. Sometimes it isn't. It's entirely up to you. Don't drop a piece of plastic on there, because that's me all over. So do I use, yes, we might use that. You see, this is when inspiration takes you in different places. So also on there, you can see I've still got moisture on here because I've just spritzed again. You've got this little floral here, which could quite easily be a little poppy. That's what I say in my head anyway. I just make out my stamps can be anything I want to. So let's just grab a white card. Now, sometimes I do short videos, sometimes I do long videos, and we go through every process, which I actually do love doing. Right. Black ink is a good idea. So let's grab my VersaFine Clair, my Nocturne ink, and we'll just take, we just want maybe a couple of these flowers. You see, I'm doing this and I'm going with the flow, no prep whatsoever. And I'm going with the flow. So when you go with the flow, what that means is you don't know where inspiration is going to take you. So that also means that when you lay out your composition, you don't know what your final composition is going to be. You're just going with the flow and the composition develops. I like to work with a smaller piece of card just so that I've got less bulky card lying around. I'm just going to cut these out. And yes, I may not use all three, but it doesn't matter because then you've got one that you can use in another project. But I'm cutting these out so that I can use them a bit like, oh, do you remember fuzzy felt? Well, you might not be at the same age as me, but there used to be fuzzy felt when I was younger. And you'd play around with obviously different scenes, etc. And I treat, excuse me, I treat my stamps a bit like fuzzy felt in that I have cut out pieces and I use them and keep swapping and changing the composition because I like doing that. Just makes me happy. So I've got these little florals that I can add. Do I want to go right down? Now I'm just being a little bit pernickety. Let me just, you don't really need to cut this out. But of course Tracy is going to. I'll show you 2 ways that you can do it. And obviously, I designed this flower. It doesn't necessarily have to be cut out, because I've done another card in a previous video where I didn't cut this out. But I'm going to use this because I just like the little florals. I think they're lovely. Just to add a little, just a little touch of something. Now, you don't have to cut out like I've done there where I cut out all the white area. You can just sort of leave a little touch in. So you can sort of get to there, come around, go to the flower head, and then don't cut the rest of the white out, which I'll show you the 2 versions. And again, I'm just leaving a pop of white on this occasion because I think it'll work quite well with that detailed coloured background. So it's entirely up to you. If you leave, come on Tracy, if you leave the little bit of white, you take it out, or you leave the little bit of white. It's entirely up to you. We all have different tastes, and obviously it all comes down to if you've got any dexterity problems as well. But even if you've got dexterity problems, there are ways around things. There are ways we can work around things. So there's my second flower. So I hope you don't mind spending some time with me. And also I find that on the TV, obviously, you know, we have to go through the products. The presenters and the demonstrators have to go through the products so you're aware of what you're receiving. So I feel that my job is to come by and inspire you to use your product in different ways, but also show you every step of the way, which isn't possible on the TV. There just isn't enough time, because as you can see, I'm at 32 minutes now and nothing's gone on the card because I've shown you the product. Mind you, I've shown you the product as well. So it's not too bad, to be fair. Plus, I can waffle for England. So that might be a downside for you, but there you go. So we're just cutting that floral out. And I'm using Pergamano scissors, nail scissors, or whatever will work. Or if you like your big scissors, that's absolutely fine. I just use what works for me. That doesn't necessarily mean every single time it'll work for you. So we've got all these bits and pieces cut out. And while I've got all those bits and pieces cut out, this has now worked beautifully. Isn't that lovely? It just works so nicely. So what I'm going to do is grab my heat tool. Now I'll never ever leave my heat tool out, and I never ever leave it plugged in. Also, if you don't heat your card with your heat tool, it will stay nice and flat for you. It'll just dry flat, especially if you've got a good quality card. So what I'm going to do now is I've moved the heat tool away from my card initially, because there's no point me going to dry it while the heat tool is cold. So I'm just heating that heat tool up, and my card is nice and flat now. The minute I heat the card, it will bend. Also, you can see here I've got beautiful, let me just lift that up. Because I've let it do its own thing, I've got some beautiful colours there. So let's just give that a bit of a dry. I don't need to give it too much of a dry because I'm not going to stamp too much on the background, or if at all. And if the paint or the ink is very watery, now it's had chance to soak into the card, I'm not moving it as much. Normally, if this is all runny and everything and you put your heat tool, that one doesn't blow as much. It blows your ink everywhere, but that hasn't really. So what I'm umming and ahhing about is whether to just use this as well. So what I'll do is I'm going to play with the composition on here. So what I'm thinking is, that's the bit that I cut the leaf out of. I cut these leaves out of. I don't know what I did with the other one. Did I just chuck it away? what did I do with the other? Oh, I just chucked it in the bag, didn't I? And you can see that I didn't chuck this one. So that came out of there. But I could use that as part of the composition. So let's bring this in. So I'm just showing you how I play around things. Now that could be part of the composition. The only thing with that for me is it hides too much of the background. If I was just leaving it like that and then just putting a sentiment on, then it's not too bad. But I might use that for another project, but not at the moment. So I've got my two sort of leaves, which I'm going to place around about there, and I love to see some of that background. But what I'm going to do is take some of the washi, and it tears beautifully, so I'm just going to tear it and just add little touches of the washi. And I am going to faff a little bit, that's just me all over. If you want it to be more permanent, you can just rub over with a little bit of gel medium, matte medium, not gel medium, matte medium, over there with your finger to keep that washi tape on there. But I'm just going to add, so obviously you won't see that so much. I am going to add the words again, so don't worry, but I just want a little bit of that washi in the background. So I like just I love how I can add the washi. Also, you can see the colour in the background because the washi is more papery, it's still visible. So what I'm going to do is keep placing, it says new beginnings there, colours of the season. So I'm just making sure that I've got, so I can still see my background because I'm not covering it all up. I'm keeping some of the colour visible. I can still see that background, so they will go there. And you can also layer the washi on top of each other. So if you want to layer and change the composition of the washi, you can add little bits. So here we go, this is the bit I want. There we go. So I'm going to add that there. So I want to just bring this out a little bit and add this. Do you know, and sometimes you don't put it on straight. That's okay, I can just peel it away. And I like to just faff a little bit, that's it. So I can then add these in the foreground. So what I'm going to do is just place them down and glue them down. I've got some white cotton that I actually pulled off my cotton thread for another project that I then didn't use. So I'm going to add little touches of this white cotton, spread it out a little bit because you want that sort of to diffuse it a little bit, but also add a little bit of whiteness in the background. So I'm going to take my pin flare. Let's grab this pin flare. And let's add our leaves. So I can add a little bit of dimension now. Now you don't have to add dimension if you don't want to send a card out and it's got too much dimension. I tend to hand deliver, or I will wrap it in tissue and send it in a box. So I'm going to place that there, and I adore a little bit of dimension. So I'm then going to add a little bit of washi here. And I absolutely adore layering these leaves. Okay. Now we're going to add a little bit of life with these flowers, but first of all, oh yes, it'll go with my composition. Let me grab some coloured pens. Now I treated myself to some more pens, you know, because I'm a bit of a, you know, a pen freak. sometimes I buy them just for the sake of buying them. Now you can use your Ecoline pens or anything you want. I'm going to use my Pigment Art pens by Stapler, and I'm just going to find a red. That's fine. So I've got a little red, so it doesn't matter what you use, whatever you've got in your collection to colour with. Your Inktense pencils would also look nice. So I'm going to add just like this is a poppy. And with these, I've just remembered, you really need to work with them whilst they are wet. You can't sort of, the minute they dry out, you can't work, you can't move the colour. Let me just add a little bit more. So you need to work with them whilst the ink is wet. So I shall just do one flower at a time and just move that ink, rather than colour too many at a time. So I'm just adding a little bit of the red. And then I've just got a little bit of water, and I'm just moving that with a little bit of water. I don't know whether I'm using the 3, but we'll decide. These have got a good light fastness, which means they don't fade. And you can blend the colours quite nicely. You obviously need a card that is going to allow you to move those colours, because some cards don't allow you to move the colours. These dry very quickly, so to move them you do need to move them while they're wet. So I'm just going to go back and add a little bit more intensity of colour. I do love to add layers of colour. So your Ecoline pens will work lovely, your pencils will work really nicely. You could have coloured this in yellow as well if you wanted to colour that in yellow. Just blend that out. I often like to let things rest in between adding layers, because you can just add layers a little bit better when you give them time to rest. So let's just... So I would go back and I would add a little bit more intensity of colour to the centre, and then just chuck it on the floor. Just stuck to my nail then. So just go back and add a little bit more intensity of colour, and just blending out the lines really, just so that I've got no harsh lines. That's all I'm doing. So the little one needs a little bit more intensity. That's fine. So any red pen, whether you use your Copics or your whatever. So what I'm going to do then is just grab the gel pen, just to add some touches of white, just so you can see the little, and this is just, I didn't want to leave a gap on the stamp. So rather than leave a gap on the stamp, I added a little floral. So I'm going to add a little touches of white. I always think little touches of white just make everything pop. There we go. And then you spend forever playing with your composition, because that's Tracy all over. And what I end up doing is I put them in place, and then I'm like, oh, I've got the composition right, and then I have to move them. That's just what I do all over. So I just like the fact that the florals don't overpower the rest of the project. So let's have a little play. Told you I took them off and then put them back on again, didn't I? So I'm going to add a little tiny touch of pin flare. Let's make sure you can't see the glue. There we go. So deciding where things are going is the hardest bit, and you don't have to stick down every floral. So if you want, you can, one floral you can keep with no adhesive on. The only problem I find is that I do faff a little bit. There we go. So then I've got my lovely sort of leaf and florals, and you can use any floral that you wish. Look how lovely the background, how rich that background is. Just looks beautiful. So shall we have a word? So on this stamp set, we've got Explore Nature. Yes, let's use that one. Put the little floral back. So Explore Nature. And I'm going to stamp that in black. So my Nocturne ink. You don't really need to press very hard because they're very fine sentiments. And then I can't find where it gets put back. That's it. And we'll just cut that out. And you just need to decide whether you want to add sort of a black mat. And I think I do, because we've got that black text in the background. I think I want to add a faux mat. So I'm using my black Posca pen just to add a black mat. And I'm just using a piece of white card just to save me cleaning the work surface, so that you aren't waiting whilst I clean it, and just going over again because my Posca pen really needs shaking. So then I can add the Explore Nature. Let me just grab the other adhesive. So I'm just going to stick this just sort of on one edge, so I'm going to just add the adhesive there at the one edge. Let's get my scissors ready, just so that it sticks on the leaf but looks raised without having any 3D tape, because I've just stuck it at one end. Did I cut? I don't think I cut another piece of card, did I? But then we will add some of our Posca pen. Turn your card around when you're using the Posca pen, and if you're finding you're there flicking away forever and nothing's happening, give your pen a little bit of a pump onto the surface, just so that you get that paint flowing. Then give that a good shake, and then it starts to flick even easier. So just make sure that you're not wasting your time. If it's not flicking, you've not sort of pumped the pen and got the paint flowing. And if you don't get the paint flowing, well, there's nothing to flick. It won't flick because there's no paint there flowing. Just so that you can see the actual little card with the washi, which just looks beautiful. If we bring in the black mat and we add that to the black mat, the black then on the card really pops. So let's add that to a black mat. And I say it every single time, you wouldn't do this, you would wait until your card dries. Let's just... go. And then just add that to your black mat. There we go. And then I'm going to add that to a 5.5 by 7.5 inch card blank. Just so that we've got that as well. Just so that that pops nicely against the background. And then we've used that beautiful washi in the background as well. Let's just lift this up so that you can see exactly what you've got here. Just love how it looks. It's just wonderful. However, I just want to cut another piece of card. Bear with me. Let's just grab another piece of card. So we're just grabbing it, I'm just grabbing another piece of card just to experiment a little bit. And it's funny, I will see strips, like there's a strip of card here and you can see strips of card. Yeah. So this is a slither of card that I cut off my black mat to make my mat. And if I just add that little strip there, it just brings in the black from the mat into the foreground. There we go. Just brings that into the foreground, and then we'll add a smaller piece here. Yes, I do faff this much. Then what I'm going to do is add a little bit here, like so. And what that also does is it sort of frames your image. It sort of frames it within this area. Just so I'll put it that way, it sort of frames it in that area. So just so that you can see that. But I've just cut another piece of card. Oh, I want this to be an informative session. So we've created this card and we did the leaves, etc. So, you know when I said to you, oh, you know, I didn't want to use this because, you know, it seems a shame because we couldn't see the background. So what I'm going to do is use the peacock feathers. So if I use the peacock feathers and just go down, just a light spritz with water, just so that that sort of reacts the ink, so that the ink is just not sitting there on the surface doing absolutely nothing. I'm just going to give that a little dry with the heat tool. Actually, we don't need to do that yet. We've got this. And then what we can do, let's take this off. So we've used this stamp to make the main card. So we used the Leafle stamp to make the main card. But then, because I said the leaves, when we put the leaves to that, it covered this up too much and the background. But we've got this smaller one here. So let's grab this A7 one, which is turnover stamp set 1005. Let's grab the stamp. I'm not even going to put it on an acrylic block, to be honest. Let's just move that out the way a minute. Let's grab another piece of card. So this piece of card will be fine, will suffice. Let's just move that out the way. Let me just show you this stamped. Just move that washi out the way at the moment. So let's use the colours we did before. So Twisted Citron. So let's use the Twisted Citron. Then we will use come on Tracy, Bundled Sage. A little bit of Bundled Sage. Some Mowed Lawn. Again, don't get too regimented. Then we'll have some Evergreen Bough. And also, you wouldn't ink over your card like I'm doing on the card that you're going to use. So let's have some of that blue. So just ink fairly randomly. Now let's give this a little spritz with water. Literally one spritz I've done. So let's just add, because I just want to show you this as well, because it seems a shame to not see it. I mean, look at that. How gorgeous is that? I mean, seriously. I mean, that is a card in its own right, isn't it, with a sentiment, don't you think? That is just beautiful. And you could even layer the bigger one over the top, like so. You could even layer that over the top. So the thing is, I end up going off on 55 million tangents. Right. But I class my YouTube as an educational tool. So if I end up going off on tangents, that's absolutely fine by me. So what I'm going to do is just tear around the piece like so. Oh, got an itch now. Just tear around this. You can tear freehand if you wish. The ruler just makes it very simple. She says, even though she can't pick the card up. There we go. Again, just chuck that somewhere. Now that could be a perfect ATC, couldn't it? Quite easily. But you could just add, I don't want it that way, that way. See, I like to play around. I'm terrible at playing around. Let me just look. Let me just look at this. You see, that would look nice on its own, wouldn't it? And then we'd have that as another card. Oh dear. How many cards can one person make? So I'd take my washi And what I can do is take the washi and just stick that now back down, because I can add, see, I've now got this I can add to another project, this piece, because this is what I like. I like to show you what I'm like when I'm creating. This is how I go off on tangents, because what you can do is you've got this one and then you can add a leaf. But I'll create another project with that, but you could add another leaf. But I can use this like so. And then let's take this leaf again from this stamp set here again. So take this again. Where's my acrylic block gone? I haven't even measured this piece of card. Maybe, did I measure this? Yeah, it was 4 by 6. That was it. 4 by 6. You can tell I get over enthusiastic and then don't think about what I'm doing. But this is exactly how I create my samples. I start doing one thing and it ends up, you know, spurring off something else. So I want more of the blue, the peacock feathers, to be visible. So I'm going to make sure that most of the leaf is inked with the peacock feathers. And then what I'm going to do is add tiny touches of the evergreen bough, and then a little tiny touch of the mowed lawn. And I am not going to spritz with water. I'm going to just have this like here. But you could quite easily create ATCs out of these as they are. Just beautiful. A little thank you note to somebody. I just adore that. Absolutely adore it. And this one. And this one. Just makes me so happy. Right. So you could quite easily have an ATC there. So let's take, so this echoes the colour that I've got in the background. And this is why I like to spend my time sort of with education on my YouTube, because I can take as long as I wish. Even if I end up talking to myself, it doesn't matter. And I've just found that the stamps, the more I use them, the more I am just inspired. And I don't know whether you're like me, but the minute I start creating and I put something down on card, that's it, I'm off. It's always the way I am. And you can see that I haven't stuck down anything yet. I've literally just left everything in place and not done anything yet. Just turn around there. Nice easy leaf to cut out. Okay. That's it. So then I can still have that leaf there, but I'm not hiding. You can even have just like that, just, oh yes. So what we can do now is let's use the same piece of card. Let's add a faux mat around this, just around the piece. Now, I've not even measured this, I've not cut it straight, I've not done, none of it's been done as in planned. I'm just using the piece as it is. Look how that black mat now pops. Come on, Tracy, what are you looking for, pin flare? Look how that now pops. So I'm just going to add little bits of pin flare, just so that I've got that raised, just slightly slanted, and that is beautifully raised. Then I can add my leaf that's just here. So we can just add a little bit of the leaf, just bend that down a bit. None of this was planned, none of it. And what I can test then, I mean, and I've still got this one that I did and I just stamped, so I've got that for another card now. Just brilliant, just, I absolutely adore them. Right, but then what I was thinking, this is where I get in a mess with stamps because I just have too many stamps out. I can tell, I've got my Scarecrow cut out of a mask here. And what you could do, obviously, I'm just testing this. Oh, we're going to have to do that as well. Sorry, but more cutting out. But it's like a little workshop, isn't it? Right. So I'm going to grab the Scarecrow, which is from my Scarecrow set. Stamp set 1009. So the Scarecrow. So let's grab this stamp. Now, I didn't expect, I really, honestly, genuinely was not planning on creating all this. But that's where inspiration takes you. So I'm going to take my little Scarecrow. Take the little Scarecrow. The Scarecrow stamp set is A6 as well. Just add the little Scarecrow. And I always hear people say, oh, a Scarecrow for Halloween. Yes, you can use it for Halloween, but it's meant as autumnal. You know, a Scarecrow is autumnal. So there we go. That's it. We've got our lovely Scarecrow. And then, of course, you're going to watch me cut it out. Can you see who's on the Scarecrow? Little mouse. Couldn't resist. Couldn't resist. So I'm going to cut my little Scarecrow out. Now, obviously, you might not want to watch me cutting out. So if you don't want to watch me cutting out, just simply fast forward. You also don't have to cut his little fingers out if you don't want. You can just cut out the shape of his hand. Not a problem. But because I saw that I'd got that aperture, then I couldn't resist but to add a little bit of the Scarecrow. So that's why I'm doing it. Again, you don't have to cut the little mouse out on his shoulder. But I add these details also to add a little bit of fun to your designs. Just enjoy the process. And again, I'm just leaving a white border just to make him pop. And I'm just going up and down where he's a little bit scraggy. A bit like me in the morning, really. And then just cut. And what I'm doing is I'm also trying to keep my hands away from that black ink, just so that I don't go and smudge it everywhere. You can take a little bit more time than me. I'm going a little bit quicker, just so that, you know, I'm aware you're sitting there watching, listening to Tracy Evans waffle for England. So just sort of rushing a little bit with the cutting. But you can see I'm still trying to be aware that I don't sort of touch that ink. Now, I don't have to cut all the grass out. I'm just going to make a scraggy piece of clothing. It looks scraggy, even though you're not going to see it, but it's just a habit. And I can just show you how I cut. It's going to be hidden. So there is our Scarecrow. So I'm going to add a little bit of pin flare. Just a little bit to his hat, well, his face, his hat, whatever. No, I'm not. I'm just going to take it back off again. And then I'm going to faff for England. Just it. Let's get you out. There we go. Get you in. Like so. There we go, because he's got to be sort of holding. That's it. And you can just see he's just holding that there. So I'm just going to add very few black splatters as well. No, I'm not, because my black pen decides it doesn't want to do anything. So I'm just adding a few a few black splatters. Now, I often like to just move everything out of the way and just clean that black up, because if you're anything like me, the black just smears everywhere. So I do just like to wipe that up. So let's just then add some white splatters. Now, I haven't got a card blank cut out, but Tracy's going to do something and cut one out, because that's me all over, and you can hum to yourself. There we go. So let me cut a black mat out, because I just want you to see it. So if we add this to a black mat, that will just knock everything everywhere. So that the black mat is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. So we'll add that. To there, and you do realise I haven't got a card blank cut out, but we don't need to do that. But you see, it's funny, I've got a I don't know whether it's a bit of, I don't know, quirkiness or whatever, but if I don't add it to a card blank, I feel like I haven't finished my demo. Does that sound, yes, that does sound mad, Tracy. Absolutely mad, but I'm still going to see if I can grab a card. We've got one that's pre-cooked, pre-cooked. Who am I kidding? Pre-cooked. Oh, I might have one pre-cooked. There we go. Bear with me. So that's 4 1/4. So let's do So I've now cut a card blank 5 by 7 because you knew I couldn't leave it, didn't you? I had to add the card blank. Let's add that card blank, make sure it's facing the right way. Add that to here, like so. Just push that up a little bit. There we go. And that's what we've got so far, made from a piece of scrap. And then do want a little text. I've got that many stamp sets all over the place now. Can't tell. Don't even know where the Scarecrow one's gone now. This is why you don't want too many stamp sets out at one time, because you can't find the ones you're looking for. That's because it's up here. Celebrate the colours of the season. What else have we got? Meadow. Spend time amongst the trees. Scarecrow. Do you know, I think I'm going to use the same one as I did before. Explore nature. Exactly again, just because I love it. I've got that many pieces of card just everywhere. So let's add that. You do get to the stage where you have to tidy up because you can't find anything. Explore nature. Just cut that out. I always seem to use my big scissors to cut out. I do use my trimmer as well, but if I'm demoing, I just use my scissors. There we go. And we're going to add the black mat to that, which I admit, when your sentiments are very little like this, it's a little bit fiddly, unless you've got nails like me, and then you can just hold it in place with your nails. There we go. Let's move that out of the way. I literally could, honestly, I could carry on all day. So we've got Explore Nature, which we're going to add there. So let's just take a little bit of, so Explore Nature, so there. Grab my scissors. And I'm just holding that down just until that adhesive grabs hold. And what I've done now is we've created the original card. So we've got the original card. I was just blowing a little bit off there. So we have the original card with the washi and the leaves. And from what we created the leaves with, the cutout piece, we've then created this one. Just so you can see that. We've then created that one. Absolutely adore them. And then whilst we were playing, we literally stamped that one as well. So I hope you've enjoyed that session. I would like to say thank you for your support, because to be honest, without you, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to do what I love. So thank you very much. Thank you for your support. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.